Untamed. The platform.
iOS, it's only sport. Welcome to the podcast, people. Martin Devlin, Lachlan Wall, 1 till 4 every afternoon live on the platform. Well, next best thing, if you can't join us live, is this, the podcast, the highlights of the show. We covered many issues today. Champions League, NCAA basketball, the girls outrating the boys in the US, the beautiful and grotesque honour of a cauliflower ear. That article on ESPN. Really? Is it attractive to have a broken nose and a cauliflower ear? As well as that, more on James Tedesco. We talked a bit about him today. The football Ferns, very disappointing again. Look, we're just not that good, and it's okay to be not that good. I just wish that there was a little less hype around this side in the White Ferns. Just some honesty about the performances. The new club rugby tournament, why is it taking so goddamn long to get this thing organised? They reckon 5 years of admin before we're actually going to see a ball kicked in anger. ARU and BTE joined us, our regular correspondents. Miles Davis on the Champions League. You're going to hear, though, from Parker Jackson-Cartwright, who has re-signed with the Breakers. Sekope Kepu, 110 test veteran for the Wallabies. He has been playing for Moana Pasifika for 3 years. Callum Hill, a brand new golf correspondent out of Australia, previewing the Masters. And Andy Raymond on Tedesco. Lots to talk about then, and we begin the show the same way every day. Tablets in hand, I say gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. Rugby. Good God. Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Rugby, you are just useless. As a sport, your administration is among the worst in the world. Certainly the fattest, most complacent, lazy and arrogant that we have here in New Zealand. The standoff disagreement and refusal to compromise or produce a person who carries enough mana or clout to secure a compromise over the restructure of the New Zealand Rugby Board is laughable. If that was any other organisation, you'd be in mediation by now. And how utterly embarrassing for the sport that would be. Should happen, but all involved to head up their own backsides and ego-driven to even start thinking of a way forward through this. Then there's the Aupiki final scheduling. Decided and confirmed on Tuesday to clash with the Warriors-Manly matchup on Saturday night. Duh. Do you people not think, or are you just thick? Or so closeted inside your own echo chamber bubble, you think that this match will match that match in audience interest and numbers? Or you just don't care? And now the news of a brand new World Rugby Club competition between teams from Super Rugby, the European Champions League, and a couple from Japan. It's a great idea. It's well overdue. It's exactly what rugby needs. But get this. It's planned for 2028. What? 2028? That's 5 years away. Why on earth does it take so long to get something that seems so simple to organise to get organised? It's not the Auckland Light Rail link. 10 years to build a train station in Mount Eden. This is as stupid and as dumb and as unacceptable as Doc taking 12 months and spending $500,000 to kill one stoat. How hard is it? Get idea, look at calendar, find gap, talk to clubs, get agreement, put proposal together, get approval, start organising. 5 years? How useless, how ineffective. What a waste of space you people are. It's just mind-blowing, isn't it? No other business would tolerate this level of incompetence, slackness, and all-round uselessness. It comes down to zero accountability. A whole lot of people who know that their jobs are never, ever under threat. They never have any accountability. They never have to explain or account for their own inactivity. And finally, as far as the Aupiki scheduling thing goes, it comes down to one or two things, and both are as bad as each other. It's either NZR are just not aware, or quite simply, they just don't care.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The platform.
Clearly it is. And this is why clearly, the Pilco report came out saying, clean out. 1:14 time, loud and clear in North Tai Eri near Dunedin. Says Michael, thank you. Yes, there's another one coming through fine, all good. Glad to hear that the signal is loud and clear. Martin, 24 plus 4 equals 28, not 24 plus 5. 4 years, not 5. No. What month are we in? April. This thing isn't scheduled for June and July. You've got the rest of this year. That's 24, then 25, then 26, then 27, and the fifth year is 28. I'm right as always. Lachlan, headlines.
No, you're not.
I am.
That's 4.5.
Oh, well, okay, 4.5. 5 years, mate.
How well?
See, this is what happens in these committee meetings. It's 4.5, not 5. It's 5, it's not 4.5. Let's go and have lunch, Lachlan. Can we agree on that?
I'm quite hungry.
Robbo's paying.
I do need some lunch. Where to start? I don't know. Rugby.
Lachlan's got a sick dog here at work, so he's a bit tired. He's been cleaning up doggy vomit for about the last 3 hours.
For 3 hours, I woke up to a pile of vomit in the bedroom.
Yeah, okay, so a little longer than 3 hours, yeah.
And it's just been going ever since. It's like
Stop feeding her lollies, fish and chips then, mate.
Don't.
Okay? If your parents are listening, I'm going to dog you in. You gave her chicken curry last night. He says.
You know what I hate? One, I hate when you say things like that because they're not true. But just in general, this isn't a dig at you. This is a dig at people in general. The suggestion that I don't know how to look after it.
Dig at people in general.
The suggestion that I don't have enough experience, I don't know how to look after a dog.
Are you too distracted, mate? You're always on your phone. You're always on Instagram.
Shut up. I've grown up with dogs. This
Here we
breed
go.
as well. This is the third dog. The other two are
Easy,
buried
isn't
in
it,
mum and
mate?
dad's backyard.
Yep.
I know how to look after dogs.
Throw the incendiary device in and walk away. That's what your sister does. There you go.
Hey,
Lachlan,
well,
can't look
what are you
after the
doing?
dog.
What are you
can't look
doing?
after
You're
the dog,
throwing
Lachlan.
everyone
You can't
under
look
the
after
bus.
the dog.
Yeah, where is my sister? Huh? Nowhere to be found. I'm taking her to the vet. I'm paying the... Do you know how much the vet was this morning?
Yeah, well, Mum will recompense.
No, she won't.
Why not?
Because I'm not one of these kids that asks mum and dad to pay
It's
for
their
things.
dog, mate.
Yeah, but where are they, huh?
Yeah,
Overseas.
that's
Who's
it.
looking after
Yeah,
it?
you.
Yeah.
And spew.
Hey, that was mean. Don't listen to her.
Don't listen to him, hero.
She's lying right by my chair. She's snoozing now. What'll happen is she'll wake up and then she'll go in the corner of the room and then she'll be all happy again.
Yeah, dear leader, we might need a carpet cleaner in, mate.
Yeah. Considering it's been... Anyway, on to the sports news. Andrew Strawbridge, who was part of the All Blacks coaching group as recently as last year for the World Cup, will join the England coaching team on a permanent basis ahead of test matches against Japan and New Zealand. Andrew Strawbridge, coach, I know he coached Waikato for a little bit. Not too sure what else he's done, apart from the All Blacks. Look, Stuff have described him as a renowned coach. I don't know if I'd say that. He's good, but renowned.
He was with the All Blacks for a while, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, but you know what his role was? He was skills coach.
Right.
Since when do the All Blacks need a skills coach?
Exactly,
Don't you have skills, which is why you got
Why you
into
are
the
in
team?
the All Blacks? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Former Melbourne Rebels halfback Frank Lomani has been slapped. Why does it say former? Has been slapped with a 6. Is he now with the Endrua? Is that why?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Has been slapped with a 6-game ban for his shocking elbow against his former side of the weekend. Frank Lomani playing for the Endrua, that is. Very shocking. Don't look at footage. It's not very nice. I wouldn't look at it. Champions League this morning. 2 pretty damn good games that were on. Both English sides playing. Arsenal at home to Bayern Munich. Real Madrid at home to Man City. Both were draws. Arsenal Bayern 2-2. I think Arsenal were lucky to get a point out of that. Actually, both of the highlights that I saw, Bayern had plenty of chances. Real and Man City, all 3 of their goals were just superb. One of the first one was kind of lucky. The next 2 were just brilliant goals. But Real managing to get a point out of that game. Tomorrow morning, PSG Barcelona at 7 a.m. Atletico Madrid Dortmund at 7 a.m. as well. Sticking with football, the Football Ferns. They played last night. And they were held to a scoreless draw by Thailand.
Just awful result, this isn't it? Just an awful result.
They're a team ranked 19 spots below New Zealand on
which means that they're an amateur
which
side.
Means they're awful.
Yep.
Because you've got probably like 10 to 15 pretty good women's football teams of the world, and then the rest are
The rest make up the numbers, and anything after about 30, we're lending them boots.
It's a little bit like International Rugby League. You've only really got 4 or 5 or 6.
Well, it's like international rugby, outside the top 20.
Well, to be fair... well, no, there's not I mean, you've probably got your 7 or 8 at the top, and then you've got a bit of a gap, and then you've got about another 5 or 6, and then you've got a bit of a gap, but I don't think there's a huge drop-off. There's like little steps downwards. Anyway, the Football Ferns, they won their first match against Thailand 4-0. They drew this 1-0. Like, they had lost like 30 shots on goal, and Thailand had one shot. Brilliant. The Warriors will welcome back a pair of frontline players for this weekend's clash against Manly. Those players being Dallin Waititi-Selesniak on the wing and Kurt Capewell in the second row. Really good returnees for the Warriors. Big game against Manly. That'll be a great game as well. Kiwi swimmer Eve Thomas has achieved an Olympic qualifying time in her third event, taking out the women's 1500 metre freestyle at the National Championships. Meanwhile, Jessie Reynolds and Josh Wilmer both beat qualifying marks for the Paris Paralympics over S9 100 metre backstroke and SB8 100 breaststroke. I always thought it was breaststroke when I was a kid. I didn't know it was breaststroke. Tiger Woods, the 5-time Masters winner, has restated what he has said for many, many years. around challenges to his physical fitness, that he would not be competing at the Masters if he didn't think he could win. Here's a direct quote ahead of the first golf major of the year getting underway tomorrow. If everything comes together, I think I can get one more. Do I need to describe that any more than that, or are we good? Ooh, bit snippy. Probably in a jokey sort of way. That's what's making news, Martin.
Devlin.
Oh my goodness me!
The platform.
Sekope Kepu, 110 tests for the Wallabies. He was a member of the New South Wales side when they won Super Rugby in 2014. Been playing professional rugby for the best part of 2 decades, since 2008. Look, just a fantastic bloke you're going to hear from. Really, really fun to talk to, and bringing his wisdom and his experience to Moana Pasifika. Look, I'm a Palangi man, and I love my rugby, and I look at your team, man, and I think, how special must it be to be Tongan or Samoan and be in that environment where everyone else is. I mean, apart from there's the odd coach and things, but it's a completely different environment, and just explain that to us, what it means to you, and also what it means to the young players.
Yeah, look, exactly. I guess it's very unique in its own way. And firstly, we don't represent a union or a franchise or an area. You represent every Pacific Island person around the globe.
Yeah, good call.
And in every child that aspires to play rugby, with Pasifika heritage. So you're representing them, but also, then the fun part, that you've got, 40 guys or whatever that all laugh the same, and, the jokes and,
right.
All that stuff. That's the fun stuff and the banter that goes on. But it's also then, trying to balance up the professional side and, teaching guys that, yes, it's all right to have a bit of fun, but then when you cross the white line, everything, you got to switch on. And it's those little things that if they can master that and build those good habits, that goes a long way to setting them up for a long career in rugby. But, mate, it's been thoroughly enjoyable, and it's one that, I've really, really enjoyed. And in the last 3 years, I've learned so much more about my culture and my people, and that's what's been, I guess, fulfilling for me coming back.
Sekope Kepu is with us, MP. Moana Pasifika won 2 games out of the 7 so far in a match-up. Playing the Reds on Friday night, that's 7 o'clock kickoff. Also, just the interaction that you have with your fans. I know it's really difficult for a lot of people to get to these games, but I always try and watch, because I'm really interested in the crowd and the reaction from the crowd, and it just adds another dimension. It's like the Fijian Ndrua, isn't it? It's just adding another dimension, and finally acknowledging, the fact that, Pasifika people have played such a huge role in rugby here and across the Tasman for so many years. What I'm trying to get at in a long-winded way, mate, is that I just think it's so important that this franchise continues and survives and thrives.
Yeah, I agree, and I think as long as they set the foundation, set the pathways and everything up right, and engage our people, and I guess if you look at it, we're everybody's second favourite team, and but I think as like we're only 3 years old, opposed to the other franchises that are almost 30, so we've got a bit of time and space to make up, but you get those things right, and you obviously set those foundations right, like I said, then that should go a long way in terms of getting people engaged and the next generation of kids that want to play for the islands, play for their home countries, their heritage. That's this being a team that's going to be sustainable is very important towards that.
How also important would it be to get a couple of games back in the islands like the Ndrua do? Because those are just such a spectacle when they play at home.
Yeah. So thankfully enough, there's one in Tonga this year. So that's going to be the first Super Rugby game in Te Whaiva, which is in Nuku'alofa, which is every Tongan in Tonga is looking forward to that.
I bet. I was just going to say, every single person that can will be turning up for that. Brilliant.
Yeah, look, and if we can get more games in the islands, let's say 2 each in the 2 countries, I think that'll go a long way, and I guess build a bit of a fortress like the Ndrua have. So. Yeah, hopefully that's long-term plans, and it's not always as easy to set those games up. Easier said than done, so yeah.
2008 you started, and your international career for the Wallabies ended in 2019. Man, how much has rugby changed in all of that time? You've been playing professionally for nigh on 2 decades. It's incredible.
Yeah, look, it's definitely changed, and I guess I was grateful when I guess blessed enough to play, in for that long, and yeah, I guess a lot of it has changed. The professionalism and everything that comes with it has changed. The speed, everything. There's technology. There's everything now. I used to go away on tours in 2008 and 9, where I remember, calling home on Skype there was a team phone that was in the team room that we were able to call home from Europe and that. So. Times have changed since then.
God, hell yeah.
But yeah, like the game in general, and the other funny thing is a lot of the stuff that you do back then that are basic still applies nowadays.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah. About your core role in that. I mean, look, you're a tight head prop man, and none of us can pretend we know what the hell you do. But I mean, essentially, is it the same? Is it set piece? Is it hit and rucks? You've got to be a bit more mobile. You've got to get a bit of ball skills.
Yes. I think it's evolved in that way as well. But in saying that, you've got more props now that are more mobile than they were back then. But also, that their core role still hasn't changed. It's set piece first. So there's a lot more demand out of the props. And yeah, I think every prop now that's coming through is aware of that, and that's sort of part of their, I guess, job description now is. They've got to be able to ball run and attack and still throw passes and all that stuff.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
The Tight Five.
5 separate sporting topics, roughly a minute or so on each. And when the bell reminds us, we go on to the next topic. The new World Club Rugby Tournament. Why has it taken 5 years or 4.5 years or however long it's bloody taken for this to get organised, Lachlan? The football ferns woeful last night. Look, the reality is, just like the white ferns, we aren't very good. Come on, Wellington, kick into gear. The Knicks need 13,000 this week, 13,000 in their last home game to break attendance records since they began in the A-League. Talking to CEO David Dome on the phone earlier today, he says, we're only expecting a crowd of about 8,000. The weather's not going to be good. Need a few more, Wellington. Giannis has done a calf. I just watched that, Lachlan. And at the moment, our Lakers are playing the Golden State Warriors. Let's talk some NBA. NCAA basketball, get this. The ratings for the women's collegiate final outrated the boys' collegiate final in the United States. That's the first time that's ever happened. And an article that I was showing Lachlan today on ESPN called, I quote, "The Beautiful and Grotesque Honour of a Cauliflower Ear." Best you have one rather than me. Let's talk about the new World Club Rugby Tournament. So the idea is half a dozen teams from Super Rugby, a few teams from the Champions League in Europe. I don't know how they select these teams. I presume they'd just be the top 6. Unless, of course, you're the Melbourne Rebels. You wouldn't be able to afford to go, would you? A couple of Japanese clubs getting together for a 4-week competition, knockout rounds, just simply that. So, however many teams, 6, 12, there'll be 16 teams probably. Round of 16, quarters, semis, final. They could probably crunch it into 3 weeks, I think would actually be better than 4 weeks. 4 weeks takes a bit long. You don't need a week off between games. Come on, you've got big squads. You can rotate the squad. Anyway, Lachlan, why is it taking as long as Auckland Light Rail or the Auckland Underground Rail to build to get this thing organised? Is it really that difficult? We're going to talk to Jeff Parks after 3 o'clock from the Roar out of Melbourne about this. Why does everything in rugby take so long? Remember that they do the World Cup draw. I mean, they've only just changed it, but they did the last World Cup. They did the draw in 2020, at the beginning of 2020, for a World Cup in October 2023, right? And then spent, the next 3.5 years doing what exactly, World Rugby? Why do they take so long to get anything organised? I mean, I could understand if it was 2 years. I go, 2 years to get organised. But 4.5 to 5 years?
I think one of the problems with modern Western society, I don't want to get all sort of political and act like I know how the world works, because I obviously don't. I'm only 26. But my fear with the way that the world goes in this part of the world, New Zealand, Australia, the US, the UK, Canada, whatnot, is that when it comes to big governing bodies of sorts, making big decisions, they are so fearful about stepping on the toes of just one person out of a couple of hundred involved in the decision-making process and setting things up or whatnot, like a tournament, that they want to hold all these meetings.
Well, it keeps them in employment to have meetings. Mate.
Yeah, they want to make sure they're covering all the bases. Oh, but is Janet down in accounting all right with this new tournament? Oh, what about her daughter Leah? You know, all this stuff. Like, they're so concerned about getting something wrong or annoying one little person and a tiny little bit of outrage, whether it's on social media, whether it's somewhere that I think they just waste so much time with meetings, with paper shuffling, making sure, okay, are we all on the same page? Are we all on the same
can
page?
somebody report back that we're on the same page?
Let's have a meeting about that meeting.
We've just decided that we're on the same page. Yes, I know, but I think that you should go back and report that and then get back to us. And then
we lack people with the
decisiveness,
the nous, the skills, intelligence. That's all kind of the same thing. The decisiveness, the confidence, and the big ball bustingness, if that makes sense, of just saying no. We're doing this.
We're doing it.
We're doing it now.
The bulldozer.
What Peter V'landys was when he said, no, we're starting the NRL back up.
Yeah.
We're going to shut down if we don't start it up.
Can you imagine what a difference a guy like that might make to the sport of rugby in general, but especially here in New Zealand? Real leadership is actually taking the lead and then standing by whatever you decide to do because you believe in it. There are just so many Mark Robinsons in New Zealand rugby. And that's reflective of obviously who he is, because that's who he employs. It is just ridiculous to think it's going to take the best part of 5 years to get this organised. Football Ferns 0, Thailand 0. So, the mass media was celebrating the other day. The Football Ferns
actually a good crowd, it looked like, in Christchurch. Good on them.
Good. Yeah. Putting 4 goals past Thailand, who are a rubbish side. They're the only team outside the Oceania teams that we've beaten in the last couple of years. And when I say we, the Football Ferns national team, apart from the win against Norway, which was an aberration. And now a 0-0 board draw. It just comes down to this. I'm not heaping on this team like I'm not heaping on the White Ferns. All I want to do is be able to hit a major mainstream media sports section on their website and read some honest analysis of the performance. 0-0 against Thailand is a total disappointment. Just like the White Ferns summer of cricket has been a total disappointment. You get all the hype, all the resources, and you're not performing. You perform against the weaker sides that you can bully and beat up on. That is a really poor result from the Football Ferns last night. That's all that needs to be said about.
Well, that's all that needs to be said. I'll say a couple of things. One, credit needs to be given to them for the 4-0 win the other day.
Yep.
Granted, that's not the most recent result, which I don't think we actually gave them much credit for.
Okay, good call. Good call.
We need to make sure that when we're criticising them, we're also praising them when they do well.
Yeah, that was a good result.
It was a good result. And also... It sounds really bad. Look, the Football Ferns have been horrendously disappointing for a number of years now, apart from that Norway result, which is clearly an outlier. An absolute outlier. Not to be rude, but an outlier the way that, I don't know, Leicester City won the Premier League.
That's it. That's exactly what it is. That's what it was.
You were great on the day, or that stretch of time. You were the best team involved in that occasion. But other than that, you've been horrendously disappointing, so much so that I don't want to watch you. I don't want to watch a team that I care about, being a New Zealander, looking like a sorry group of players, to be honest.
They're not getting any better under a coach who is a failed coach.
And also, look, they did have a coach at one point who was like, yeah, I don't know if this
he spoke the truth.
I know, this is the thing.
He spoke the truth. That's why they got rid of him.
But this is like Jason Demetrio seemingly with the Rabbitohs versus a Craig Bellamy. You got a softer coach who will give players freedom of expression, freedom of getting away with things in camp.
What does New Zealand football always say? It's a great culture and the girls are having fun.
Yeah. And then you get someone like Craig Bellamy who runs a really tight ship, is really harsh on his players, tells someone like Nelson Asafa-Solomona, who could get probably 800-900k at another club, telling him, you're not playing because you're not in shape.
You can't have that in New Zealand.
No, you can't.
Now,
but in sport in general, you can't. People say, "Oh, a coach is past his time. He's well past his time." I think it's total BS. I think when people talk about this, like someone maybe like Des Hasler, people say this about Jose Mourinho in football. I don't think a coach loses the ability to coach. I think players lose the ability to respond to good coaching because they hate being told what to do. That's what I think it is.
Our Bucks caned Boston today.
Look, you're the worst bandwagoner when it comes to the NBL, which is fine.
I've got a dozen teams,
there's an amusing joke around it. But don't drag me into this, our Bucks. I don't like the Bucks at all.
Well, that's a serious calf injury.
It could be an Achilles. It could be an Achilles.
And he walked. I saw him walking off the court. He hobbled off.
He hobbled off. Did you see how he did it? He just inbounded the ball.
Yeah, just to knock. It seemed to knock you ass, didn't it? And then there goes the calf. Meanwhile, our Lakers today are up against Golden State.
I think that game's tipping off now. I think.
Well, it's actually 21-16 at the moment to Golden State. I'm watching it, and they're 4 minutes to go in the first. But this is crucial because
Anthony Davis is out, by the way.
What we don't want to do is we don't want to drop a place to them in the play-in tournament lock and do he's just so easy.
You don't have a team.
I do. My team is your team.
Let me go through it. Okay, your team was Clay Station and Golden State at the start of the playoffs last year, and then they got dicked by my team. Then you jumped on Jimmy Buckets in the Heat.
Buckets, that's right.
Then they got beaten pretty badly by the Nuggets, so you're all on Jokic. And to be fair, you were on Jokic for a while. You've been banging that drum pretty damn hard.
Thank you.
And then who'd you jump on last week? It wasn't us. You were on another team for a little while last week. Who was it?
I was on the T-Wolves for a little bit, and then I was on the Celtics for a bit.
I told you to jump on the Pelicans. I said, there's a team you need to jump on, but you said exactly. You said no. Then you and now you're back on the Lakers, and now literally within the last couple of hours, you're all on the Bucks. You love Dame time.
I love Dame time, but I think without Giannis, we've got absolutely no chance. NCAA basketball ratings, the girls outrating the boys in collegiate basketball. Significant this is, and I think there is a really good reason for it because Caitlin Clark, who played for Iowa, they lost to South Carolina, is a real superstar of American sport at the moment. This young woman is getting a lot of kudos, a lot of attention, and it was a game that was close and I think when it comes to a lot of sporting encounters, people want to watch a contest. The problem with, and I watched a fair bit of it yesterday, the boys' final between Purdue and UConn was a 75-60 blowout. It was a blowout from the first 5 minutes. And there was no one interesting on the court. I watched a lot of those players and I thought, I'm not going to see a lot of you in the NBA. Who's the big lanky white guy?
What's his name? Purdue center. Zach Edey.
Yeah, and his coach is saying, if this guy doesn't make the NBA, he's going to be one of the greatest players ever. No, he's not. He's not going to. I don't even think he's going to get. Well, he'll get drafted, of course, but I just don't think. He just doesn't look physically up to it. They just wasn't. Look, I tried to get interested in that game. Isn't that amazing? So it's not about whether it's actually women's or men's, and this is an American basketball audience watching. It's whether or not the contest is actually a contest, and whether there's enough personalities in it to make it interesting. I think
personalities, it's that. It's star power. What stars are on TV? Like if you get an NBA game, you could have. Okay, you've got two games on at the same time. Let's say on national television in the US, you've got two games on at the same time. One is the Pelicans up against the Pacers, two good young teams, really good players, whatnot. And then the other game is the Lakers up against. With LeBron up against Golden State. They're going to watch LeBron and Steph Curry. More people are going to watch that. Even though you've got a match, another game that's between two teams who are arguably better and could be a better game, you've got one with star.
There you go.
That's what it is. And Caitlin Clark is a star. She's an absolute star of American sports. You're right.
Finally, the beautiful and grotesque honour of a cauliflower ear. This article on ESPN saying that for combat athletes, it isn't a lifelong injury. What it is it's a badge of courage, and it's something. It says it's a sign of a life well lived to have a big fat cauliflower ear. Now, we know with many rugby players, they get these as well. It's burst blood vessels and cartilage. I hope you can still hear out of that ear. But listeners, do you think that is a badge of honour, having a big cauliflower ear? Is it attractive to women?
Maybe some like it.
They lie at night and squeeze it. Just the whole thing is just so revolting to me.
Well, maybe it's the sign of a man.
Well, okay, maybe that's it. The big broken nose and the cauliflower ear. Is that attractive? Please let me know. The vexed question about James Tedesco. This is serious stuff, people. You imagine him if he was a relative of yours or a partner or a brother or a really close friend or something like that, and you're watching this guy, and he gets concussed so easily these days. You flick a light switch, shut a door too loud, you drop to the ground. Of course, I'm being a little facetious about that, but that's what it appears like. It was a pretty innocuous tackle from him on the weekend on Akiko's hip, and he was out before he hit the ground. I mean, he said he's had 10 concussions in his career. He's probably had 10 times that many. The duty of care. Whose responsibility is it? If he can't be convinced himself, can anyone else, contractually or otherwise, step in and go, James, come on, man. Just for your own sake, you got to stop playing. Andy Raymond. I feel really sad about situations like this because he's obviously a great player. He's won everything there is to win in the game and all of that kind of stuff. But my question is simply a personal one. If that was your brother, if that was your son, if that was anyone that you knew well, was a close friend or something, and you're witnessing what we're all witnessing, which is the sickening amount of concussions, the fact that he gets concussed if somebody snaps their fingers too loud these days, which is obviously says it's residual. You do as a job through your brilliant podcast, you talk to a lot of courageous men who now suffers terribly from mental illness and from dementia and all these kind of things. Mate, I mean, this guy, they reckon he's had 10 concussions. He's probably had 100 of them. I mean, let's be honest about it. And you sit there and you wonder, obviously the league can't turn around and say you can't play anymore, but you just kind of wish that somehow that message would get through and say, dude, you've got other things in your life and you don't think about them when you're 30 years old, but when you're your and my age, you do think about this because time is finite. And I just don't want to be you and me sitting there at 80 years old and we're croaking a podcast to each other in the old folks' home and we're saying, mate, 20 years ago we said James Tedesco was going to be a walking cabbage and that's what he's turned into. It just makes me sad, Andy.
Mate, there's a theory in boxing. The first thing to go with a boxer is their resistance, their ability to take a straight punch on the chin, which rattles your cage, which rattles your brain. And a boxer that's been hit too many times will get concussed and or knocked out and or knocked down by a lesser punch the longer they go.
Yeah.
And to me, it looks like James Tedesco is getting knocked out.
Too easy.
And knocked out cold.
Yeah, I agree.
On lesser collisions than what he once was. There's the alarming part. Now, you also brought up a really good point. You said, they're saying James Tedesco's been knocked out 10 times or been concussed 10 times. What a load of crap. Any of these players, any player playing first grade now has been concussed a dozen times or more before they even get to first grade. It just happens, mate. It happens in local leagues. This is one thing that has no one has brought it up, and there is going to be a lawsuit at some stage when they all start, and they're coming. But the guys that play for South Auckland or the guys that play for different provinces that play 200 games over 18 years, but they never make the big time. Well, they're not as fit and they're not as strong and their technique probably isn't as good, but they're just as tough. These guys are all going to have issues as well, mate. These guys are going to have potentially more issues because they're not as physically advanced, because their technique isn't as good, because they put their head in the wrong places. So this thought that, I counted up how many times he's been concussed, absolute crap. No one has got a count on how many times these players have been concussed, and somewhere someone has to create some type of data bank where we do know, but that also means there's got to be a level of honesty from clubs and individuals, and that's not going to happen. Realistically, it's not, mate, so the argument continues.
We need to talk.
Okay, all right.
We
got it wrong.
need to talk.
I'm like New Zealand rugby. I can admit that I get things wrong. Lockton, your favourite game continues.
Yes!
What is more chance happening? I'll present two scenarios to you. And you tell me out of the two what is more chance of happening.
Yes!
I know, all right, I'm getting on with it. James Tedesco does the right thing and actually calls it quits on his career and retires. Or the Black Caps win the World T20 comp this year in the West Indies.
The first one. Tedesco.
Do you think there's any chance that Sense and Sensibility or that a family member or somebody gets to him?
No, I don't think. Not in the next maybe year or so.
See, his defiance afterwards, this was the worrying thing for me. I'd love to know what you think about this, people. 0800 333 2283. And don't give us the big macho Tarzan beat the chest kind of thing. And the worst thing about this is we're watching it in front of our own eyes. And if this guy ends up being luring his words and unable to remember things, I don't feel responsible, but I kind of feel like ghoulish in fact that I'm watching this happen.
You know what the sad thing is? That damage could already have happened. Could already been done. He could actually retire and step away, a step away from the game, and in 15, 20 years,
do you think,
get the early effects
do you think that by continuing to play, it's going to make it better?
No, of course not.
So it's only going to get worse from here, isn't it? And, concussions happen where you don't have to get knocked out, but you can get hit in a heavy tackle. Like, I can't remember who I was watching. It might have been somebody from the Roosters or Newcastle on the weekend. One of their wingers took the ball up and just got absolutely poleaxed, right? Big chest-on-chest tackle. He managed to play the ball, and then he's down on his haunches for like about a minute afterwards, having nothing to do with the game.
Actually, just quickly, there's a really bad one in one of the games I watched. I don't know what game it was, but a bloke made a tackle. A couple of guys in the tackle he was defending made the tackle. His head went into the hip of someone or the leg of someone.
That's guys.
And then he got penalised for laying on top of the guy
and
with the ball for too long.
But
the reason why he got penalised is on there for too long is because he'd been knocked out, and then his teammates pick him up, and he's just like,
that's it. Yeah. I don't even think he went for an 8. I can't remember I don't even think he went an HIA.
It was maybe a Sunday afternoon game. Maybe.
So what is more chance of happening that Tedesco wakes up to this and actually removes himself?
If you're isolating that, I don't think that's happening.
That's not going to happen.
No, I don't think so. There's not many guys who've done that. The only one that has done that who has been... Now, Tedesco has played most of his career. He debuted for the Tigers in 2012.
Lachlan, he's played well over 250 games, I think. I counted for the NRL.
He's played most of his career.
Plus also his representative career. He's almost up to 300 games now. First-class games.
But we don't see this in rugby or league much. We don't see players stepping away from the game a lot earlier than people expect. And I said it yesterday, there's a defiant competitiveness within athletes in general because that's why they get into
There's also
sports.
a macho-ness that they think they're weak if they own... Look, you've just got to read the absolute tragedy that is around Billy Gayton, who at 33 took his own life, the Blues halfback, and was going through all kinds of mental stresses and strains. Went to the Blues, was told that to take his problems outside. This was back in 2017 or 18 that they didn't want to know about it, all that kind of stuff. And he was starting to hear things in his head. He said, and he felt he was bipolar. All of these kind of things. Look, it was just the way that Tedesco got knocked out on the weekend. And Andy Raymond before was exactly right, people. It's that boxer who just gets clipped on the chin and just his legs go wobbly. That's what Tedesco looked like. Sometimes you can go thumping into a head against a hip. But he just grazed the hip and he was out cold before he hit the ground. And that's that residual effect that once you get concussed once, it's easy to get concussed twice. By the time you get your 14th one, basically somebody just has to slam the door. Who was the Blues halfback, the Aussie guy that used to play and got a terrible concussion? Steve Devine. And that's what he said. He said it happened to him. And he said, you just read... his story, people, where, he only admitted to half a dozen of them while he was playing. But, afterwards when, all the problems started to come to light, there was dozens and dozens and dozens. And he said that, he'd get home from training, open the door, just collapse in the hallway and he'd be asleep there for 5 hours or something. Then he'd wake up angry because the kids are waking him up and all that. Look, I fear what's going to happen with James Tedesco. I fear that he's going to... live most of his life, because he's only 30 years old, so he's got, at least, and if he lives to even average age, 70 or 80, that he's got well over that to live still, and that he's going to have a terrible life. Why do I feel like this? I only feel this bad because we're watching it, and you kind of feel, I love the gladiatorial nature of it and everything else, but I just feel sick knowing that this guy's going to front up again this week after being concussed. No stand down. Even in boxing, if you get knocked out, you get 6 weeks or something, right? Or if not, he'll be back next week. He'll definitely play Origin this year, and everyone just looks the other way. And that just doesn't feel right. In actual fact, what it feels like is really wrong. Parker Jackson-Cartwright has re-signed with the Breakers. Great news, because normally with Star Imports in the ANBL, they stay for a year, and that's all we see of them. Well, he wants to come back for another year. Why is that, Parker Jackson-Cartwright, for you? Why is it the right decision for you?
Well, Marty, it on all levels, it just hits for me kind of personally. I felt like in one short season, I grew as a player, as a person, and I really found Auckland, New Zealand to be home, and it just felt right. And with all that, going back, having another opportunity to be a part of it all again was just really, just that moved the needle for me, really attractive.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because the fans loved you, but you also seem to thrive off that energy as well. And what you've just said, you really, seem to really enjoy your time here in New Zealand.
Yeah, Marty. Like I said, you grow with a place, just with time. And I just have great experiences, great, friends that I made. And it really, like I said, you feel the love from just not in a basketball setting, but a personal setting. And all of that is very important to me, as I've stated.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, about your backstory. Where were you born and raised in the States?
born and raised in Los Angeles, the Valley area, if anybody out there knows, with my 2 siblings and parents. Went to middle school, high school, left for college, went to the University of Arizona, and I've been playing 7 years abroad.
Where did you pick up a basketball? Where did you start?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it started real young, 6 years old. My brother put the ball in my hands, who was 3 years older than me and played since I was a kid and played professionally as himself. He made me love the game early, along with my father, who was very passionate and a teacher as well. So I kind of had 2 good role models in my life to teach me from a very young age.
Who were your heroes growing up? Did you look at those LA players at the time and think, yeah, I want to be one of them?
Of course. Like I said, I've loved the game since I was a little kid. I loved watching, and little did I know that as I'm watching, I'm studying always and really mimicking guys. My heroes really growing up are, the little big heart guys like Tony Parker, Steve Nash, Chris Paul, players that have overcome playing at such a high level for so long.
You're one of the very few imports that have come back after 1 year, signed again for another year. So it's quite a historic moment for the club as well. I hope that you've been told that.
Yeah, Marty. I mean, it's been so welcoming, and year to year so different. And in my career, I've never been in a place longer than a year. So this is uberly special for me. I hope the fans, I hope all the supporters understand that it's just as big of a moment for me as it is them. And I'm just kind of, been enthralled with all this support and appreciation.
Modi may have said that he thought that, before this happened, that there'd be less than a 1% chance of your signing. So, I mean, obviously he's desperate to get you back and things, but, that news welcome to him
right.
as much as everyone else.
Right. And, we built our connection from the ground up, and all the time I spent with him, I always learned. I always try to be a sponge. And just, knowing what we expect from each other is always an honest and really strict kind of thing. So we've really built something, and I'm really excited to get it going again.
You talk about championships, and this is a club, a franchise with the history of that. Came so close last year, this year, a lot of injuries. We all know the backstory and things like that. But reading the comments once the press release came out, I was really enthused that you mentioned that, and that's what you want. That's what's driving you.
Of course. That's why we play. Really, in all honesty, and it's like, when you start a journey from the beginning of the season, and you take your bumps, and you have your highs and your lows, your ebbs and flows, that's what makes a team a special team. And when you enjoy that process, beautiful things can happen. So knowing that we got to that point in the season where we were flowing and really thinking as one, moving as one, and for it to end short, but for us to accomplish what we did from how we started is what it's all about. And to just have that opportunity to do it again, that's what you play for.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
Devlin.
That is a disgusting act.
The platform.
5 years, the best part of, to get this club rugby world thing going. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And also the red cards to the Fijians and the punishment from those 2 Ndrua players, or that the 2 Ndrua players got given by Sanzar. The only thing with Sanzar is, who is Sanzar? Because if you try, and we tried before to ring Sanzar, and there's just no one there. Now, Sanzar shouldn't even exist anymore because South Africa and Argentina are uninvolved, but of course there is the Rugby Championship. So remember, Sanzar developed this thing called the Commission, which now runs Super Rugby. So you ring their office and there's nobody there. And I don't even know where the office is. Do you reckon this is just like it's out there in the cloud somewhere, Lachlan? That there is actually no office and no people?
I reckon it doesn't exist, yeah.
So there's an office somewhere in either Australia or New Zealand where a phone rings, and the shared workspace, the people in the next office go, What's that? What is that?
So
Why does that
hold up.
phone always ring?
Hold up, you be Sansa, okay? I'll be a journalist, okay?
Okay.
Ring, 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 ring. You mean to pick up? Ring, ring.
Well, there's no one in the office.
Well, okay.
Okay, so I pick it up. Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Oh, hi. Is this? Have I reached the Sansa offices?
Hang on a second. Is this the Sanzar office? Who? The Sanzar office. No, it's that guy Colin. Sorry?
I'm just looking for Sansa. You know, the rugby governing body. I'm looking for.
Colin's not here.
No, Sansa is what I'm after. I mean, do you have some sort of office manager I'm able to speak to, or?
Yeah, sorry, hang on the phone second. There's some guy on the phone. He wants to speak to a Sanzar, Mr. Sanzar. And then what happens is the phone just gets hung up, and that's you just get cut off.
You just sit there going,
that's it.
Hello?
You just get cut off.
Hello.
Yeah. Honestly, this is what we went through earlier today, trying to get in touch with him. I kid you not. The Masters, the greatest week in golf. Is it? Well, it's one of them. This tournament just rich in tradition and history. Yes, some of it, of course, we all know about. No one wants to talk about. But just in terms of the sheer drama, the occasion, the pageantry, everything else, it is a must-watch, especially on the final day, the back nine, if you've got a couple going head-to-head. So who are the main contenders this year? The Live Golf versus the PGA thing, and the Tiger question always comes up. A brand new correspondent out of Australia, Golf Magazine Australia, Callum Hill joins us. What is it, as a man who's from much younger generations, what is it you like about it? I mean, I'm sort of getting from you that the tradition, the history of the place as much as anything else?
Well, yeah, the tradition, the history, and it's just kind of how you're introduced to the game, I'd say. Like, I grew up playing with my granddad, and then, you know, it's flicking on Masters Sunday if you're not watching week-to-week PGA Tour events. And, my early memories are, you know, that incredible shot Bubba Watson hit out of the trees, and even later, Tigers comeback win in 2019. You know, it's pretty hard to go past moments like that, and they just stay with you, Martin.
Drama, isn't it? All right. Speaking of Tiger then, so much attention on him going in. I mean, you know, can he redo it? Can he rekindle? Is there any way that he can do 4 rounds and be at the top of the leaderboard at the end of this?
Well, all the signs are pointing to he can. Will Zalatoris, who is another big chance of tipping this thing up, played a practice round with him on Monday and said he was walking great and even outdrove him a few times. Look, it's going to be a media beat-up up until the first round and even throughout the tournament. But Tiger actually hasn't missed a cut at Augusta since 1996. He obviously missed a few events through injury and some indiscretions. But, yeah, look, I think realistically maybe a top 30, top 20 is not out of the realm of possibility for Tiger, but he just hasn't been playing any competitive golf.
Yeah,
so I just find it hard to see him contending on Sunday as much as I'd love to be proved wrong.
Yeah, I think it's more of a storyline, more of a headline than anything really realistic. I also love the Live Golf PGA thing going on, and Rahm has just absolutely stoked the fire, hasn't he? He comes back to play, of course. The suggestion that Live Golf is going to go to 4 rounds, which means all of a sudden ranking points come in and into the debate and obviously consideration again, which, you know, no one knows where the cards are going to land with this, but it just provides a little bit of extra, doesn't it, with the fact that you've got these players that are playing on competing tours?
Well, yeah, for sure. It's those guys coming back, they're kind of like, it's the heroes versus the villains sort of thing. You know, you get those great storylines like Brooks Koepka last year at Oak Hill and John Rahm more so, you know, the defending champion. Those storylines are awesome. And, you know, it's disappointing as a golf fan, you know, week to week that you don't get to see these guys consistently competing against each other. So it's kind of reserved for 4 weeks of the year now. And you could argue that makes it more interesting.
Exactly right. And who out of all of them are the real contenders in your mind? I mean, this is what you do for a job. Golf Australia magazine. Give me 5 names.
5 names? Well, I'll give you the big three are obvious. You know, the Scotty Scheffler, he genuinely just could be the man to catch this week. Like, he could easily run away with it. Just by far and away the best golfer in the world. And then you've got obviously Rahm and Rory, who Rahm you're not too sure about because you haven't seen a whole heap of him playing now that he's on the Live Tour, and Rory hasn't been playing great. But two names that when I've done my algorithms here at Golf Australia HQ, Hideki Matsuyama. I think I don't know what he is on the New Zealand TAB, but over here he's sitting at about $19, $20, won in 2021. He's looking great. He's hitting the ball really, really well. His last three events, he's been, T12, T6, T7, and I just think what Hideki needs is a decent enough putting week. I think that's where he kind of has let himself down in the past. He has been relatively injury prone over the last year, but I like the way he's trending, and history says when you're trending in that direction and reach Augusta National, yeah, every chance of winning, and he's got the runs on the board there, so he's probably top of my list outside of Scotty. You've obviously got Brooks Koepka. You don't really need to say a whole heap about him. He just fronts up at these things year after year, and the Masters is one he hasn't got, and he fell short last year, had a poor final day, but I don't think that'll weigh on him too much. And Willie Zalatoris, in 2 trips to the Masters, he's had a runner-up and a T6. And you can get about $30 for him, I think. So he's been playing really well as well.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do though is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.